This video is sponsored by War Thunder. Project Moon City is not a safe place. The oldest fellow we have a canon age for is 54, and any named character that looks older is either high on whale fumes, clinically thirsty, or on borrowed time. Living to the age of 60 is a privilege very few people can expect, and that's if you live in the so-called gated communities we call nests. But if you're in the back streets and like the feeling of air in your lungs, it's worth considering some additional measures. Like, say, organized crime. And among the best outlaws are the fingers, named accordingly. But not every finger is made equally, nor easy to join. The index and the pinky here are clandestine as hell. The ring will make a portrait of your entrails if you fail their art class. And the thumb gets off on cutting their members' tongues out. But thankfully, there's one finger that's not only respectable, but they're downright family. So today, let's take a tour of the most loyal syndicate in the entire city and ask ourselves, should you join the middle? And as always, we gotta start with the facts. The middle is by far the easiest finger to join. Whether you're heartbroken, home-wrecked, or down to your last pair of shoes, the middle will accept any and all into their fold. And that's complete with a welcome party and a promise to defend you to the last breath. All you need to do is protect your new family in turn. See, the middle's all about loyalty and justice. So much so that they are the finger that everyone over the age of 5 knows you do not want to screw with. From as early as Kanto 2, the LCB found out that if you kill not even a member of the middle, but one of their relatives, they'll start piling up bodies so high you could play Jenga with them. Every action you take will come with its proper consequence, and some punishments are on the lighter end. Say you use foul language against one of their family, that's pretty simple. You just get dragged by the hair so they can smash your face into a table twice. Oh, but if you happen to touch a sore spot, like say, insult their hair, well then, sorry buddy, you're gonna be lucky to live another 60 seconds, let alone 60 years. And if that all feels prescriptive, then you're a smart cookie, because these are actual punishments written in the middle's most sacred text, the Book of Vengeance. This ever-evolving constitution is the tool the middle uses to guide their hand. It's also weirdly detailed too. Like, you've got certain codes like Title 72, Section 3, Row D, Line 4, threatening a member of the middle using means provided by the usage of unrecognized enhancement procedures. Punishment: beaten until dead. Now, do a lot of the punishments in this book boil down to bury him in the ground? Oh yeah, totally. And you can see most of the others we know of on screen right now. But ultimately, if you see someone in a purple shirt holding a book, maybe tread lightly. Because once your name's in those pages, it doesn't matter if you're halfway across the country or in the middle of a war zone. They will not stop until you've paid for your crimes. And that means we already know 2 great reasons to join the middle. They'll welcome anyone with open arms, and by just being a member, people will be afraid as hell to screw with you. This also has the perk of always being on the finger's good side. Outsiders will get a torn jaw if they so much as spit on your shoes, but the family's always got some room for leeway with each other. Bonus points if you like dad shirts and EDM too. These guys are basically a frat that just wants to spend time with their brothers, sisters, easily anything in between if PM had the courage to say it. Because just like their logo, every member is chained to the middle in an unbreakable and trustworthy bond. And that is something no harpoon, giant moving building, or even a plane crash can take away from them. But if someone tried, here's what they'd be going up against. Wait, what the hell is a plane? Like, I think I've seen those mentioned exactly once. The only time we've seen it is in a mirror world for like a second in Leviathan. Hold up, let me check something here. Yeah, that explains it. Cause this video is sponsored by War Thunder. Are you looking for a game that respects its own lore by creating the most comprehensive vehicle combat experience ever made? How about one that's not gonna charge you 70 bolts and is free on PC, console, and mobile? Authenticity is the name of the game, since War Thunder's here to immerse you with its combat system that has densely realistic vehicles and graphics and sound design made to sear every metal creak, groan, and crunch into your memory. Memories are important after all. And with 95 million actual brothers, sisters, and everything in between, you're sure to find your own community with nothing but just a mouse and keyboard. And yes, this sucker's optimized for mobile on its in-house Dagor engine to keep the frame rates high and the lag a relic of the past. Plus, as someone who's used to having to pull teeth to make sense of what's under the hood of anything, I gotta appreciate the damage x-ray view, which can tell you what and where a shot hit, and what in the literal mechanism led to the destruction of your target, or yourself for learning purposes. Easiest autopsy of my life right there, and probably yours too. Once again, this baby's free as a bird on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. And both new and returning players that missed the last 6 months will get a massive bonus pack on PC and console, including a shiny 100k Silver Lions, a week on premium status, and the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor. All you gotta do is sign up using the limited time link in the description or pinned comment. Many thanks again to War Thunder for their assistance here, and now, let me just collect my thoughts. I gotta stop smashing mirrors with this thing. Luckily for the middle, their line of business doesn't rely on any kind of weapons. All they need to enforce their grape-flavored death note is a bit of punching and kicking, and a healthy dose of ink. Yeah, the middle may play it pretty simple, but they technically have a singularity on their side. Augmentation tattoos are a pretty common weapon that came into public use after the fall of its parent wing. According to a smaller syndicate called the Stray Dogs, these can offer a variety of physical buffs, like increasing your strength or making your skin as hard as steel. We've seen Thumb subsidiaries like the Kurokumo clan make solid use of this, like in Heathcliff's ID, but the middle practically has a second home under the needle. Every single member gets access to vengeance tattoos, which make the wearer more powerful when they or their allies get hurt. And we may not know the full extent of their effects, but they include upping the offense level of the wearer when their ally dies, upping the amount of envy damage they deal when they or their allies are hit, upping the amount of coin power the user has when against an enemy that dished out the most damage, and maybe more. They also get more strength the more allies there are that think the same way, and use similar attacks through envy resonance and up their SP in the presence of their allies. Though to be fair, we can't be sure if that's from the ink or just the good old power of friendship. Stay in for long enough though, and I'm sure you'll find out, since every member of the middle gets a shiny new tattoo every time they cross someone out of their book of vengeance. That may very well be why the more experienced members of the middle have larger books than their newer siblings, since I doubt they'd want to forget any single person they had to reverently pen in their shit list. And on that note, we may as well go over what going up the ladder is like. The middle may have a strict kind of etiquette when it comes to how folks on the outside should act, but so long as you're not causing trouble on purpose, you don't really have to worry about walking on eggshells. That's the main trait that separates these guys from the Thumb. Well, that and their version of Sinclair won't shoot himself for a minor spelling error. There is still a pecking order everyone's gotta follow. As of writing, we know of 5 different ranks of the middle, and funnily enough, there's a trend where all of the different ranks have their own levels. There's the associates and subordinates, the little brothers and sisters, young brothers and sisters, big brothers and sisters, and great brothers and sisters. And if I had to guess, there's at least one more level of authority here, since we know there are several great brothers and sisters, even if none were mentioned. You know, some end-all be-all like the Capo de Capi of the Thumb were the underground pendulum gods of the Index. But ah well, in due time, right? Associates and subordinates are exactly what they sound like. They're technically not a part of the middle, which means they still have to play nice with everyone else, but they do get the backing as the middle's property. So if you screw with them, you're putting a blemish on the middle by proxy. Then there's the little brothers and sisters, which are proper members of the middle. These are the entry-level goons that get their own books of vengeance, tattoos, the works. Funnily enough, this is the rank we know the most about, too. These guys are mainly out and about, either enforcing small-time vengeance calls for the Syndicate, or supporting a big brother in an entourage. If they ain't on the clock, though, the little ranks are either getting some of that good old quality time with their family, or working out how to treat their big bro to something nice. Little ranks also don't really worry much about vying for rank and power between each other either. It could be something in the U-Corp waters, but every example of the middle we've seen, i.e. the one southern branch, has no sort of jealousy or resentment for others at their level. And unlike the Thumb, they seem not at all scared and instead happy or honored to get some quality time with their big brothers or sisters, even if it is mandatory. Like, say what you want about these guys, but they've got HR nailed down to a T. Then we get to the young rank, which, be real with me, you probably didn't even know these guys existed. And that's fair, because there isn't any example we have of a young brother or sister yet. The most likely candidate is someone who wouldn't even talk about it anyway. But Middle Sinclair's Uptie story all but confirms that both he and Werner are due for that promotion promotion any day now. Beyond that though, there are only a couple of blurbs about these fellas, so forgive me for making some educated guesses here. To account, I'll add every source on screen so you can determine whether or not it tracks. A little middle can stay in that rank for a number of years, but tends to gain the trust of their resident big sibling over time, and is invited out for vengeance hunts with them. Should they do well enough, some bond will eventually form, leading to that little rank being invited out more often for both work and social events. This means they're increasingly trusted more with insight on how the higher level systems work, can get a larger book, and eventually become a right hand to their big sibling. Soon afterward, they can be promoted from a little middle to a young middle, like a kid going through a bat mitzvah. And once that happens, the young middle becomes more of an assistant big middle. They're the main point of contact for their older sibling and are entrusted to check on the business side of the middle instead of only vengeance hunts. At least, that's what I can glean from these notes. This thread here is pretty loose, and I'm sure a bunch of y'all haven't even heard of young brothers and sisters, so now you're up to speed on everything we know and some possible extrapolations. Which means we can move on to the fun one.
So luscious. So soft.
Soft.
Man, it's a peak hair day for me.
Perfect hair day.
Nothing ever goes wrong when I wake up on the luscious side of the bed. Time to take care of what I really came here for. Get ready for a beatdown, coupon thieves!
Let's get one thing straight first. We have exactly one example of a big brother of the middle, and it's Ricardo. It's very possible that a lot of them are nowhere near as charming as the LCB's greatest stalker, but since loyalty is a huge mainstay in this syndicate, it feels right that keeping up morale is a big rank's top priority. That's why it's their job to keep watch over the business side of things with their young ranks and afford all the welcome parties for every new member of the middle that comes in. In other words, their job's a combination of people management on the inside and being a total intimidating force of nature on the outside. The big ranks have enough sway to be able to negotiate trades with other branches of the middle, like how the southern branch managed to snag some tortoise boluses from the eastern branch at a discount. On the other hand, the big ranks also need to make sure people have a reason to fear the middle. Cause sure, there are the great siblings, but if a finger has to go all the way up the chain of command to be perceived as a threat, are they really worth watching your language around? That's exactly why aura farming for a big brother isn't a choice. It's an obligation so you can keep up appearances. That's also why the Book of Vengeance is especially harsh on those that slight the big brothers and sisters. You can kidnap an associate and the middle may need several days before they even notice. You can insult one of their clubs and get away with 3 punches to the gut. But if you make a big brother in your presence sigh uncomfortably, well then I hope you like the taste of your next breath, cause it's gonna be your last. And in case someone out there needs a sign right now, that would be an utter shame. Cause we still gotta learn more about the great brothers and sisters. Oh, just wait until you hear about how they asked Ricardo to record announcer lines for Limbus Company and allowed him to come to District 8 to catch the LCB. Oh, and they rarely join in on family time with the little ranks, so there's that. But yeah, other than that, we've got basically nothing on these guys. So once again, I'm gonna make some inferences from what we have, and y'all can take it with a grain of salt like with the young brothers and sisters. Reasonably speaking, the great brothers and sisters are most likely there for interbranch and possibly diplomatic relations. Now hear me out. The big rank is all about managing the people below them. We know enough to confidently say that this is their main job. Even when Ricardo went to the other side of the city, he brought his entire family with him, but not his great sister. Now that could be because the grudge was purely his, but since we know that a big rank can't argue against a great rank, she could have stopped him if she wanted or even gone with him. Again, yes, I'm reaching, but if the big rank is trusted to manage all of the lower middle, then it makes the most sense that the great rank's job is to manage resources and act as anywhere from the strategist to the nuclear option to enforcing the middle's vengeance. It actually wouldn't be too different from office hierarchy, where an assistant and general manager often talk with the entry-level members, but the executives are usually sequestered off. And that much I can say with evidence too, because Sinclair's own voice lines include warning a peer not to freak out when a great sister joins them for lunch. And for those that don't know, the phrasing is done in such a way where Dante is perceived in being part of the middle by the ID since they're also prepping lunch. So this isn't a case of someone warning an outsider. Great siblings just don't see little siblings much at all. What's even more interesting is that the only instance we have of a member of the middle telling a subordinate to not exact revenge they could win is by a great sister. One of Ricardo's announcer lines specifically says that the great sister told him to not get involved in a fight even if his allies fall. And sure, it's announcer lines. There's freaky mirror canonicity questions painted all over this. But with PM's track record of making sure they never blink with dialogue, I'd wager the vibe of these guys is at least more measured than the ranks below, at least to insiders. But if we want to go full tinfoil hat for a sec, the great brothers and sisters could be anything from the arbiters of reason that handle supply lines and relations with the other fingers, even getting the rare permission to forgive someone that sins against the middle, or in the worst case, they see the little siblings as expendable since they empower who's left, and that's why the great sister let Ricardo go on such a dangerous journey since revenge empowers the middle as a whole. Either way, this ain't me trying to make any kind of Moses or Diaz prediction. I'm just giving y'all the full extent of the possibilities and something fun to watch out for since we may get a great sibling character as a Christmas present. Fingers crossed, yeah? And with that, we now have info on every single known rank in the middle. This also rounds out all of the known perks, including family, protection, tattoo application, pretty simple upward mobility, and maybe some business management prospects. And you know, I didn't think I'd be saying this, but this is the most startup-ass syndicate I've ever seen. In a good way. But that's why this next part is gonna hurt. Because while I love the middle, especially the drip, like I don't even know of any other kind of group that can make Hawaiian shirts look good. If I'm gonna say something that makes me an enemy of an entire finger, let's make it count. The middle's flaws can be summed up in 10 words. They are the biggest fucking crybabies in the entire city! Okay, I probably have like 10 minutes max for the rest of this, so here's what's up. All the middle ever talks about is either how people have wronged them, the little perks they get, or how cool they are getting their little vengeance. And I'll give them this! Being a little brother or sister's a lot better than being a soldato soldier of the thumb. But the middle just has no initiative. The index wants to follow their prescript assignments because it follows their moral code. The thumb wants to bring order to the city. The ring wants to advance the arts. And the pinky, well, honestly, you can mostly do what you want if you're in there. But the middle will chain you to always acting to get revenge for its members, keep you around them day and night, and all you get in return is a whale barbecue party and a lifetime pass to a nightclub. If you ever want to get some new part-time job or study that's outside of your purple band of brothers, you better hope that it doesn't shirk your vengeance hunt duties. Because if every member's problem is also yours, you're never gonna have time for anything else. And sure, having an entire found family at your side with regular parties is a pretty sweet deal for like 5 years. I don't care how good these frat pizza parties are, if these guys don't have any kind of goal and you're living the same life for years on end, a lot of people are gonna get sick of that. And that's not talking about the whole cycles of violence dilemma here. Look, it's the city. People are gonna step on each other's toes, necks, and territory like it's salsa dancing. But trying to right every little wrong is gonna become way too much very fast. You know what? How about we take Ricardo, for example? One dumb lover boy unknowingly stole from the middle, and in the process of getting revenge on all 13 sinners, Ricardo added the Indigo Elder, a color fixer, to their list of people to fight. And even though we don't know what happened in between Cantos 5 and 7, I feel like it's a safe bet that they didn't have the means to off a color fixer. Nah, instead they chose to go to the entire other side of the city, which granted is an impressive and scenic field trip. But they then got caught up in fighting someone who is well above the strength of Ricardo, 2 waves of sweepers, and would have fought a 3rd, and the LCB again if it weren't for them being given the Team Rocket treatment. Not only is this not smart, it is not sustainable. Both Ricardo and the Mirror World Big Brother even say this was a dumb idea in some form. But even then, the middle goes out of their way to not only keep this plan going, but to specifically look for more trouble in both Merceau's and Sinclair's uptight stories out of either duty or pride. And they're just making this worse. And yet, Ricardo, as much as I know we all love the mans, still has the audacity to say this.
I just can't understand how anyone can get themselves written up in the Book of Vengeance. The middle's not the one with the thumb up our ass, like, well, the thumb, and we're not cryptic like the index, so what's up with that?
My brother, in breezy mid-drip casual wear, you will find problems if you go out looking for them. So that begs the question, how do you leave? Okay, I don't hear any house music yet. So, this topic's a big no-no for the middle. They basically have one rule for members, and it's that you don't leave. Ever. Queequeg from Kanto 5 is a famous example that got so sick of the middle's violence that she learned shame and joined a whaling crew. And since the middle says that having anything touched by them, like their ink and her mind, will allow them to find her, she effectively lobotomized and lacerated herself in order to successfully escape. And as high as Queequeg may be on my own list of favorite Limbus side characters, girl, there were better ways to do this. How the Queecliff ID's own uptie story says there's probably a way to remove the tattoos. And unless one of my great sibling theories is true, I seriously doubt that they have Vengeance tattoo radar, considering that the fellas at the District 21 nightclub needed to find her. That said, she was in a whale for a few years. If you try to leave, you're not gonna have the same luxury. If the middle will go to the other side of the city for hair coupons, then they're gonna find where you are in any district. So instead, let's talk about the only successful escapee we know of. That would be the case of Tanya from Library of Ruina. See, after the fall of one of the major corpos, a certain rabid dog of a man decided to go on a killing spree and make a lot of enemies in the process. One of those enemies happened to be the entire southern branch of the middle, and countless junior and senior members died at his hand. But one of the survivors was a woman named Tanya. And if you're in this syndicate seeing all of your family drop like flies, well honey, that's a one-way ticket to Distortion City. Tanya, having now seen that the loyalty and brotherhood of the middle was utterly defenseless, showed that yes, she did have that dog in her and got Carmen's help letting it out. Alongside that, she gained a new lease on life and started living under the rule of survival of the fittest. The only signs that she was still a part of the middle were the chains, purple shirt, and dress pants she wore. And even most of those she was willing to discard over time. Never once did she run into trouble with her old finger. So what's the lesson? It's simple. You can leave the middle if you go through a mind-altering trauma, distort to change your body's chemistry, and do so after a tragedy so grand that people would sooner think you died than deserted them. Even if the whole mind infection part's a myth, you've got all your bases covered. So go ahead, join the middle, love your new family, live it up for a few years, and then when you're tired, orchestrate their doom, distort, and then, I don't know, read a new book for a change. But in all seriousness, unless you're willing to do that, die in endless vengeance hunts, or really are willing to live in a frat for the rest of your life, well, I can't help ya, but I will judge ya. Honestly, it may even be better to convince a family member to join so that you get the protections without having to go on a hunt. As long as you don't piss someone off enough to kill you like that district-wide tax collector, you're basically safe, unlike me. Luckily, there's one final weakness we haven't talked about. You can always hear these whiners' theme music 3 seconds before they get to you. So all you gotta do is make an escape in that time. So if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna talk to a rogue artist about buying a corridor. Speaking of which, thanks again to War Thunder for making that exchange possible. Remember, it is indeed free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile, and that you can get there from my links in the pinned comment and description. Both my time and the bonus packs offer are limited, so those extra treats and vehicles for PC and console folks won't last forever. Come on, man, I'm burning daylight over here. Can we make this quick? Open the door now!
I am turning your jaw into a fine-tooth comb!
Yo, big shout out to Don Schnack for lending his voice as Ricardo. That was like my dream casting if I ever needed a voice for him. Alright, let's get to the member and patron Q&A. Alright, today's question is, what are your thoughts on the potential addition of dual or team ego skills for the centers? Now by this, I'm assuming that you mean something a lot like what we have for the Full Stop office or the Hey Show crew, but done with ego, where they get stronger if other egos are used before or afterward. I feel like them existing would be okay. Actually, doing that with Red Riding Hooded Mercenary and the Big and Will Be Bad Wolf could be a lot of fun, but I think that would be restricted to, like, a Walpurgis. The only way to do it wrong, I feel, would be to just do it super often and more than, like, once or twice per season, because then it becomes excessive and you've got to get a lot of prep for any kind of payoff.